Hey, what's up everyone? Aloha! I'm JayDreamerZ and welcome to tonight's show. I see everybody's trickling into the chat down there. So hey, this is gonna be a fun one. I didn't really watch a movie this weekend, so I didn't really have anything to break down. So we'll do truth in movies another time, probably next week. But for tonight, I thought that we would just kind of go over the plasma apocalypse. You know, just the general basics of it, kind of from beginning to end, especially since I have a lot of new subscribers and viewers on my channel, and I'll bet a lot of them haven't watched the entire Plasma Apocalypse playlist. So, I will be in the chat tonight. If you want to get my attention, type in @JayDreamerZ, and I'll try to get to as many as I can. I really would like to hear from anyone that's new. If you have questions about the plasma apocalypse or like how it works or what's involved or whatever, if you're new, feel free to pick my brain. And I'll try to, jump in and answer questions and stuff. So, hey, what's up? I see Maurice is in the chat. He says, @JayDreamerZ, hi. What's up, Maurice? Loon Through the Ether. Hey, one of the Good Vibe Tribe members. Everybody is pretty much a member of the Good Vibe Tribe. So if you have good vibes, and that's what it's all about, you don't have to pay to be a member of the Good Vibe Tribe. You're automatically qualified. As long as you bring those good vibes, then you're welcome. Anyway, so let's talk about what is the plasma apocalypse cycle. Now, I put the word cycle on the end of there just because that's literally what it is. It's not just the plasma apocalypse, but it's a cyclical apocalypse that happens to our world. Now, what does the word apocalypse means? Apocalypse literally means to take the covering off. Okay, so we have a covering to our world, right? We have the sky, and this can apply, if you're an academic or if you're not. You just have to change your perspective a little bit and apply what you've learned already in science and academics about the geography of our world and apply it to your model. It totally works. But anyway, we have the covering to the sky. So when the sky is removed, that is the uncovering. That's the apocalypse. That's what happens. That's where it comes from. Let's see. Maurice is in the chat and says, is the apocalypse going to start on December 21st? I have no idea. That's a good question. Nobody knows what year it's going to be. And I just got a donation from Third Eye Survivor. He fed the jelly $1.99. He says, hey, thank you. I appreciate you. Nobody knows when it's going to be. That's the first thing everybody asks when someone starts talking about claiming to know about the end of the world, even myself. People are like, when's it going to happen? Nobody knows when it's going to happen. The only thing we can know for sure is that we can see the signs. We can see the signs, and we see certain things amplifying in our world. You have to learn the language of the world to see these things. You have to be in tune with the world around you, with your energy, the energy of the world, and you have to know what signs to look for, quite honestly. So there's no timing on it. It's going to happen on this time, on this day. You have to look for the signs. Now, according to my research, most likely these events happen around the winter solstice and the summer solstice. So which one? Nobody knows. That's why we have traditions and holidays to prepare us and make sure that we are ready when these things come, like lighting candles at the end of the year. There's a reason that every religion, every tradition has people lighting candles during the darkest time of the year. You don't really need them. The sun is still there. So yeah, it might be the darkest time, but the sun hasn't disappeared. That's why our ancestors taught us, hey, you need to light candles during this time and make sure that they'll last for, a week and a half. Caleb Saunders says, what's up, man? I just watched Labyrinth and The Thing. Nice. Classics. All right, so let's get back to the plasma apocalypse cycle. It's a cyclical event. It's the destruction of this world as we know it, not the complete destruction. It's not like the world blows up and just disappears or anything like that. It just restarts, and it restarts in a cyclical pattern. It goes in a cycle, just like all things do. And what happens basically is that everyone knows that the poles are shifting, right? People talk about the polar shift and the polarity of our world shifting. The North Pole is slowly jogging its way to some new position. We've all seen this on the news. We have a polarity to our world, an electromagnetic polarity. That polarity is shifting, and when it shifts, it's going to hit a neutral point where the energy around us and running through our world that is responsible for what we call gravity will neutralize. It will hit a 0 point, basically. And when that happens, the electromagnetic field around our world disappears. Now, in academics, you call that the magnetosphere, okay, followed by the plasmasphere. It depends. Different people teach it in different ways, but the magnetosphere is a magnet, basically. Our world is a huge magnet, and it repels the plasmasphere or the plasma tubes or whatever you want to call them that are above our world, aka the Van Allen belts that we can't figure out how to get past. So when we hit that neutral point, that's whenever our protector, the sky, literally, the electromagnetics of it disappear, which allow the plasma to now come in because it's repelled by that magnetic force. So the plasma comes in and it only wants to ground itself, so it starts walking around our world, looks like a spider, looks like God's hand and fingers and, all kinds of different ways it's been portrayed because people saw it and they didn't know how to interpret it. So they interpreted it the best that they could. Right? And that's why I see so many weird cave drawings with strange pictures and stuff. These people are drawing what they saw. They just interpret it through their own perception filter. Maurice says, JayDreamerZ, the YouTube channel, Matrix Unveiled sends a lot of your people to your channel. Oh, that's cool. Right on. Well, hey, thank you. So what happens? We hit a neutral point during the polar shift of our world. We know we're going through a polar shift. It's on the news. They tell you, it's just that they try to make it now to not really be that big of a deal. It's a pretty big deal. So anyhow, when this happens, a few things happen when we get close to that neutral point. Okay. So there's some signs that you can look for, right? Someone is asking me when this happens. Some signs that you could tell that it's going to happen is that the weather takes extremes. Extreme cold, extreme hot. Winter starts to get a lot longer if we're approaching the apocalypse that happens towards the winter solstice, okay? So winter starts to get a lot longer. You have your great winter, your Fimbulvetter. In Norse mythology, it's a great winter that happens before the apocalypse happens, which is why, if you're a Game of Thrones fan, they're always saying, winter is coming. Like, they live in the cold, man. Who cares? Winter's coming. Great, thanks. It's a special winter, okay? It's not a regular old winter. It's a very long, very cold winter. So, you can watch the weather. You can watch the amplification of energy in our world because as the poles start to shift, the energy amplifies and amplifies until it goes into flux and goes into a neutral point, right? So when the energy in our world is amplifying, our energy in turn amplifies because we share the energy of the world around us. And we affect one another's energy, etc. So when that energy is amplified, you develop swarms of insects, swarms of animals, swarms of people. And you're starting to see swarms of people all over the place right now with, riots and crazy things happening around the world. So everything starts to swarm. You can start looking for that. You'll have bugs and insects, locusts, that type of thing. They start to swarm. They get agitated. Their energy is naturally being amplified. Now, what that means for you is if you have a bad energy, if you've got skeletons in your closet, if you've got a negative energy, that will be amplified. It will be difficult towards, the closer we get to that neutral point. It'll be difficult for people to really control themselves. They'll be so hyped up with their own energy, And it means if you're a good, peaceful, loving person, that will be amplified as well. And, you'll see a rise in people who have special psychic powers and stuff like that. Anyway, so these are certain signs you could look for. Also, the sounds that come from the sky, the strange sky sounds or whatever, the trumpets of God. They're described as so many different things. I think they sound like Godzilla and like a T-Rex mixed together. And there's a reason for that too, because we use that type of symbolism in the movies because we know subconsciously it's connected to what's happening above us. And whenever that sky breaks open or the sky falls, which that's in all of our pop culture. The sky is going to fall. But when the sky opens up, that's when giant beings come into our world. That's when the phantazoids enter into our world, giants, etc., and so on and so forth. Anunnaki, aliens, whatever you guys want to call them. But anyhow, how is everybody? How are you guys? I see True Seeker in the chat, Joshua Loveless, Justice for All, Spring Harn, Jared Rose, Connor McGregor. I've got to say it like that. Beyond Understanding. I like that. It's a cool name. The Mystery Schooler, Aurora Rain, CJ Grubbs. Wow, there's a lot of people. So anyway, let's get back to it. I'm just checking on the chat. So what happens is we hit that neutral point and I was talking about the signs, right? So the strange sky sounds, that's why we have Godzilla that makes that kind of sound, or the T-Rex or whatever. And I have a website. I posted the link to it in my community tab. And on my website, I've actually given you a whole bunch of different samples of these strange sounds that people hear from the sky. Basically what it is that the sky is loosening up, okay? And it's made out of ice. At least, hey, that's my perspective, okay? Whatever you want to see it as, that's fine. But I see that the barrier to our world, we do live in an enclosed system. Okay, it's a closed system. Okay, so we definitely live in a pressurized, closed system. When that closed system opens up, right, the ice basically starts to crack and break, and you hear it up there, but it's amplified, and it sounds a lot different than ice breaking and cracking down here. It's on a huge macrocosmic scale, and so it reverberates down into our world, and we hear these strange sky sounds, and no one quite knows where it's coming from. Well, it's coming from the sky. That's what it is. In many cases, not all of the cases, there's always exceptions and anomalies. And hey, I could be wrong. I could just totally be off about that. That's just my theory. But anyhow, so you can look for these different signs. Okay, there's a lot of other signs. I would recommend studying various religious prophecies and stuff because they all have the truth. They all have breadcrumbs that have been left behind for us to follow and pick up on. It just falls to us to put those pieces together and to figure out the riddle, and get to the center of the maze. Hey, Misty Rains is in the chat. Good to see you, Misty. Anyhow, all right, where was I? Okay, so the sky opens up. This is what happens, okay? So the electromagnetics of our world fail. They go into their neutral point, okay? Which means electronics, basically it will be a worldwide electromagnetic pulse. Electronics will go down, everything goes down, lights turn off, and in addition to that, the sun will disappear, okay? I get into that in my Plasma Apocalypse playlist, so feel free to check out the mechanics of that by searching through my playlist. But the sun disappears, and the stars disappear, and that's what happens. See, the ancients, they set up our winter holidays, right, to prepare us for this event, at least when it comes around during the wintertime. We also have summertime holidays to prepare us in the same way. But during the wintertime, they literally were afraid that the sun was going to dip down and never come back. It would disappear. It would be gone, and they would live in darkness. This isn't because they were stupid cavemen. It's not because they were uneducated. It's because they believed in the stories that their trusted family members had passed down to them from generation to generation about what they had witnessed. And they did not consider it to be, oh, it's just a story. Oh, crazy uncle whoever, no, this was history for them. This was survival. This was preparedness for them. This was a very real event. Now, over time, of course, people start kind of second guessing and asking questions and becoming, kind of non-believing in it, and they dismiss it, which is, hey, that's unexpected, and I understand. I totally do. But anyway, they literally thought the sun would disappear. And that's because it does disappear when this happens. So every year they prepare and they hope that this is not the year that the sun disappears, that the lights go out and we have 3 days of darkness, as has been recorded in our religions and alternative histories. from culture to culture. Not just the Caucasian history of the world, but many of the tribal cultures around the world have documented these strange anomalies of things that have happened in our sky and in our world, and we just dismiss them because they're some third world country, you know? They don't know about technology or whatever. Like, man, they have more truth in their myths and their legends and their stories and everything than I have ever heard in all of my years of academics. So, Ragnarok. Mystery Schooler says Ragnarok. Ragnarok's definitely the story of this. Speaking of Ragnarok, I do have something somebody sent to me I'd like to read to you if you guys remind me towards the end. All right, so let's keep on going, right? What happens whenever we hit that neutral point? So the sun disappears, the stars disappear. The world will probably get quiet for a bit. There's no electronics or anything, and everything will float. So whenever we hit this neutral point, we will go from 5G to 0G. I like that. I made that up. Anyways, everything will float. Okay, so our gravity will essentially be turned off. The electromagnetics of our world, boom, neutral point. So things will float around in your house, outside, or whatnot. And then shortly after, what happens is that electromagnetic field above our world, that's actually keeping the pressure in, along with the ice dome itself. Okay. But it's keeping the pressure in. There are certain elements that are actually repelled by a magnetic force. Those elements up there in our atmosphere, when they start to layer out, they can't go to a certain height because the magnetics are literally repelling them and pushing them away. So they're repelled by that magnetic force, which causes pressure in our world, right? And it doesn't allow certain things to escape. So whenever that pressure is relieved, that electromagnetic field's not there any longer, guess what happens to all that built up pressure of those elements that were repelled by that electromagnetic shield above our world? They go up to the top, to the center point, where they essentially burst the sky open, okay, and create the Sipapu, okay? The Sipapu is the crossing, the tunnel, the entrance, the opening, the door, the window to other worlds, and so on and so forth, okay? The sky is open. Now our closed system is an open system. And that means beings from here can go and beings from there can come in. So, excuse me. At the same time, when all this is going down, I was totally going to share pictures, okay? If you guys want to see some examples, let me know. I'll be happy to pull up some pictures, but this video will take like an extra hour if I pull up pictures manually for all of this stuff. And I don't have time to set it up beforehand, so I apologize. Caleb Saunders says, JayDreamerZ, kind of off topic, so whenever you can, feel free to answer. Do you know anything about the Phoenicians? I know a little bit about the Phoenicians, but that's way towards the end of the story, so we'll get there eventually. I watched Ice Age Worlds Collide, and there's a lot of symbolism. I believe you. Hey, what's up, Spirit Fia? All right, cool. So let's get back to it, right? So what happens whenever all of this atmosphere in our upper atmosphere just rapidly escapes out of our world? A few things happen. First, our world becomes instantly depressurized, okay? You've seen it in Total Recall, on Spaceballs, on various movies where they're losing oxygen all of a sudden. People are finding it hard to breathe and it's the end of the world or whatever it may be, some sort of cataclysm. That's why they show you that, because it will be hard to breathe. I mean, all your air is getting sucked up. If you've ever stuck your head out of like a car when it's going 88 miles an hour, I have, or however fast, you know, it's hard to breathe because you're like in a wind tunnel, you know what I mean? Not only that, but everything's getting sucked up. Now, will all of our oxygen get sucked up? No, okay? People will survive. There are always going to be pockets of survivors, exceptions, anomalies. There will be survivors. Some people will be able to breathe just fine, you know? For some people, it'll be a lot harder. But anyhow, so the world depressurizes, which means instantly our atmosphere turns into mist. Okay, there's a worldwide fog, a worldwide mist, a smoke, some people will describe it as, that encompasses our entire realm. And let's see, everything will be floating around. So what happens is when you have that depressurization, it creates a vortex. So what develops is a worldwide storm known as the tempest. The tempest develops and winds pick up, right? They start picking up and they act just like a reverse tornado, basically. And as the winds start to pick up and blow, those things that are floating around out there, because there's zero gravity now, or zero electromagnetic force, they start to just move with the wind. And, that's one of the reasons why you see the storm referred to in so many movies, where they talk about storms, and every time something crazy happens, there's like a flash of lightning and there's a storm, and all of a sudden all hell breaks loose. That's because that's the way it works. I got to get situated on my pillow here. One sec. Okay, I keep slipping. All right. Let's see here. Hey, what's up? Good to see everybody in the chat. So, hey, if you're new to my channel, welcome, okay? This is not a channel where I'll be telling you, like, this is a fact and you need to believe this or you're going to perish or anything like that. It's just my perspective based on my research and studies and my life's experience. So I share that with you, and I leave it to you to take what you find is valuable and, or be entertained. Hey, that's fine too. As long as you're having a good time, as long as you feel like you're growing and getting something from it, then hey, all the more power to you. All right, so anyways, what happens after that, right? So the world depressurizes, the tempest is created, things start getting sucked up into the sky. This is your whirlwind vortex. This is Dorothy's tornado, etc., right? That takes you to Oz, another land or whatever. And let's see here, what else happens? So it'll be dark. There'll be a very heavy, thick mist or cloud or fog or whatever you want to call it, right? Even in the Bible, actually in Genesis, somebody pointed out that it talks about how when God had created everything in the 7 days, afterwards he caused this mist to appear on the earth, so it's actually in the Bible. It's in the Quran. It talks about the worldwide smoke that goes everywhere. And so there's now a hole that's opened up in the sky. Now remember that magnetosphere was keeping back the plasma that's coming down and around our world, okay, which is responsible for the sunlight, etc., and the stars. That magnetosphere is now gone, which means the plasma now enters, right? But most of our sky is still intact. So lots of it enters through the hole that opens up in the middle, creating a swirling light, or the eye of God, or whatever people are going to refer to it as. It's the all-seeing eye, okay, basically. That's when they talk about the all-seeing eye or whatever, like 666, all that crazy stuff. That's the swirling plasma coming through that opening in the sky, that portal in the sky, okay? It's the wheel in the sky that keeps on turning, if you're a Journey fan. So anyhow, let's see here. Plasma comes in. Now, some of that plasma will go right through that hole, okay, spinning down into our world, and it'll branch out and start grounding itself. But the rest of the plasma hits the dome and finds the weak spots, aka the stars. Though you'll see the stars themselves all of a sudden just go psss, right? You'll have stars and stripes, which is where we get stars and stripes, right? And basically the plasma shoots through and breaks through those weak spots, right? And it just comes down into our world like Missile Command. I don't know if you guys have seen that game. That's Atari. That's a long time ago. But anyways, so the stars, they have these like pink magenta stripes that come down. That's the plasma. The plasma will be seen by many and interpreted by many survivors in different ways. To some, the plasma, and it's going to go like a lot of it will move kind of slowly, angelically, if you will. If you look at plasma on a small scale, like in a plasma ball down here in our world, it's pretty quick, but that's because it's tiny, okay? This is a tiny little microscopic version of what we're going to see. So that plasma will move a lot slower, kind of undulating around in our world. People will see sky worms, fire dragons, serpents, all kinds of stuff, and they'll describe them as such too. Hey, how's everybody doing today? Man, it's good to see so many people in the chat. All right, so anyhow, we're talking about the plasma apocalypse, how it works. Just kind of wanted to retouch on a few of the different mechanics and the subject and stuff like that. So the sky opens up in the world, and those people who are surviving down here will probably also start to experience earthquakes at the same time as the world grows, okay? Because the world will grow as everything grows. And worldwide earthquakes that will shake the ground, which will cause the water to come up to the surface, which will create a very swampy sort of swamp world for us, basically, okay? So it'll be very swampy everywhere. There will be a lot of liquefaction happening where things will sink down into the swampy mud or quicksand or things like that. It all depends on your geography. It depends on your topography. It depends on the ground in your location. Do you live on bedrock? Do you live on loose soil, loose sand, dirt? It's going to have a different effect for everyone. So I couldn't tell you what it's going to be like in your area. That's something that you'd have to research. A lot of this stuff is very personal. So your best survival, people always ask me like how to survive and stuff. I'm like, man, your number one chance, all the religions have it right. Like, be a good person. Like, be good. That's my number one thing. I mean, that's not a guarantee, but I'm just saying start with that. Start with that. Change your heart, change your energy, change your vibe. And hey, if you make it, you just brought all that into the next world. And you're going to populate a world full of happy, peaceful, loving people. And I love it. So that's my number one survival tip. But yeah, research your own area. How the winds move, what your ground is made out of, stuff like that. Anyway, so, Marie says, JayDreamerZ, I saw shooting stars 2 days ago. What are they? How is it? Hold up. What are they and how is it a weak spot? Oh, well, see, I believe that the stars are created by the craters that are on the other side of the moon. And the light passes through and it creates a little focal point. Just like the sun, right? The sun is just a big version that hits the dome and creates a huge focal point. But all those little craters around the outside, I think that those create little mini focal points up there in our sky. They're little weak spots, so they're not as deep or whatever. So the light hits them and it refracts and passes through, which is why when you look at it, if you zoom in on a star, it looks kind of blurry and wobbling, like it's moving or whatever. I think that's just light. I think those are just spots of light, little points of focus up there that are moving. So whenever the plasma hits those weak spots, it bursts through, and that's where it comes into our world. Those become portals. Okay. So those stars become holes in our sky for a while, and those are portals to get out or leave or whatever. Stargates, you could call them stargates. All right, so anyhow, where was I? Let's see here. So the sky opens up. There's a worldwide tempest, which is why you always see storm symbolism before crazy stuff happens in the movies. Let's see here. Zero gravity. Let's see, there's the mist. What else? I feel like I'm forgetting some stuff. Anyways, the plasma comes in, right? And our world will be energetically amplified, okay? Plasma is energy, electromagnetics, okay? This is going to just energize our world. Plasma comes in, and it's on a mission. And its mission is a search and destroy mission, okay? It's here to clean house. It's here to get rid of everything and reset everything. So it's down here, and I believe, because I believe plasma is sentient, I believe it's basically spirit. And I believe that the plasma that comes down has a particular mission. It has a goal to accomplish, okay? And that goal is to kind of wipe everything out and cleanse it out, okay? So I also believe that as it comes down, it'll take different forms, okay? So some of it will be kind of stringy, like a spaghetti monster or Cthulhu's tentacles or whatever coming down. Other parts of it will be like plasma balls, lots of energy in our world, huge plasma balls just floating around all over the place. Sprites, little tiny flickers of things. St. Elmo's fire. You're going to see a lot of different variations of it, which people will see and interpret in different ways and describe in different ways. They'll personify it and they'll anthropomorphize everything and tell it in their stories and pass it along in their myths and their legends. Hey, Beautiful Awakening says, JayDreamerZ, what's your current plan for December 21st? Well, I've got some supplies. I've got some things here around the house. Me personally, I feel like I'm just going to call it, I'm going to shoot from the hip. I feel like I'm kind of destined to survive it. I don't know how else to explain it. I feel like everything in life has led me to be here where I am right now. So I've got, the basic necessities and stuff, and I don't really have a plan. I mean, I'm going to tie a rope to our tree outside, so that we don't get sucked out or float away or whatever. I talk to my son all the time about what happens or what to do, if there's zero gravity or the lights turn off or things like that. So we've got little emergency practices that we do, and we're still refining those. So, if it doesn't happen this year, then hey, we'll have another year under our belts for more practice and more practice. And that is the thing. See, I'm not like mentally saying the end of the world is happening this year. I'm just saying the end of the world could happen this year and the next year and the next year. So it's best to get into the practice of preparing and survival, which is what our traditions and holidays basically amount to. Good question. All right, so let's see here. The sky opens up, the plasma comes in, it comes down. I believe that these are the deadlights, that it's not a good idea to hang out and watch the fireworks, so to speak, because the smaller streams of plasma may come down here and possibly connect with people and basically charge them up, and I think that they become plasma possessed, essentially. So I think that they become sort of slaves or servants to the will of the plasma, and the will of the plasma is to destroy. So it kind of possesses people, they get red eyes and stuff, and they become all enraged and things, and they probably go around trying to grab other people and make them look at the lights as well so that they can get plasma possessed or whatever. I think there's a lot of truth in our fictitious stories. Actually, I think there's complete truth in them. It's just that the truth has been rearranged like a puzzle. So that's why I love watching fiction and sci-fi and movies and stuff like that, because I believe all of these things have been ingrained in our subconscious, and it's starting to come to the surface because our energy is amplifying. So we're tapping into these things. Anyhow, so let's see here. The plasma comes down. Now the bigger strands, the bigger like trunks of plasma, they'll hit major cities, and they'll be responsible for essentially pulling up the muddy ground and petrifying it and creating brand new hills and mountains. They'll, burn scars into the ground, creating canyons and stuff. I mean, they'll really reshape a lot of the world. Now, you got to keep in mind, there's zero gravity and things are getting sucked up in this tempest, okay? Which means all the world's water, the oceans, the lakes, all of it is slowly going up into the sky, okay? So you can say goodbye to the oceans as you know them today, or to the ocean, really. The ocean is just like, I know, right? Y4 is like, that's cool, I'm destined to survive. I know, I don't know how else to describe it, but hey, that's me. I think it's funny too, actually. Man, where was I? I totally got distracted. So, the sky is open, and all of the critters that live outside of our world, space animals, I call them phantazoids, okay? This is a good example of one. Now, I don't know if the tardigrades out there are that big, but we've definitely had some hints that, tardigrades are associated with space and space travel. I don't know why they care about that, right? Oh, there's a tardigrade in space and it can do this and that. It's like, what a weird fact to bring up, So I think that's a little breadcrumb of truth as well. But basically, these otherworldly creatures that you could probably see if you look into a microscope on a small scale, on your body, on plants and stuff, they live out there too, but they're gigantic because we live in a fractalverse. Those creatures are able to come into our world, or maybe even get sucked into our world. I don't know, but they come into our world. They land all over the place. The monstrous looking ones become monsters. They become fantastic beasts, great beasts, wonder beasts. I don't know they describe them in so many different ways. They're the fantastic creatures that are really hard to us to even conceive of because they don't look like any of our worldly animals or people that we have. And then, of course, you've got the bipedals, right? The beings out there who kind of look humanoid or whatnot, right? They come down into our world and they look similar yet very different, and they have various abilities. They're very large. Everything up there is large, okay? Everything down here right now is tiny because of the pressure and the extreme gravitational pull that's coming from under our feet, right? So we shrink over time. We're tiny. When that pressure is released, hey, we'll get giants, and I'll talk about that too. Post-apocalypse wildflower says, JayDreamerZ, what about prophecy that says to cover windows, etc.? By the way, I love your info. Thank you. You're very welcome. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea to cover the windows, board them up or something. Now, during the depressurization, it's very possible that your windows might just implode or explode or whatever and burst out. So it's a good idea to have a backup plan. I'm not, that's not a guarantee that you'll make it or anything, but hey, is it a good safety measure? For sure. I definitely think so. That's what the Hebrews did when they went through their 3 days of darkness. They boarded it all up. It helps to protect against the plasma when it comes down and it's basically searching around for energy signatures, right? Because it can probably see, which means it reads aura or energy. So yeah, they can't go past a physical barrier. It's not going to open your door, turn your doorknob or anything like that. It'll just try to go through. If it hits a solid object, it'll move on, So I think it is a good idea. Good question. All right, so basically otherworldly creatures I call phanazoids come down into our world and they float down because there's, gravity is slowly restoring, okay? Slowly starts to restore, so everything is just floating back down, right? And another thing that starts to happen, because remember, we're going through the reversal process. So that red plasma that comes down, probably hydrogenated, it's going to interact with all of our chemicals in our atmosphere. It's going to create new chemicals and new gases and new liquids and things for our world, okay? So there's going to be huge pockets of different types of gases and stuff, so you have to be careful about that too. And not only that, but it's probably going to be mixed with like the mist and the fog and stuff, so you got to be extra super careful. I do have a gas mask, so, me and my son, we have a gas mask just in case. It's a good idea. But anyways, let's see. So there's also the otherworldly travelers that I call sliders. Sliders, I believe, are like purposeful travelers of the fractal verse out there. They travel those plasma conduits that basically connect realm to realm or hub to hub, place to place, planet to planet, however you want to describe it. Those plasma conduits are what people travel through. They're the wormholes, the vortices, vertices, whatever they're called, vortexes. That people travel through when they go into another world, right? And our world is basically going to drastically change. Life as we know it will be through, okay? There won't be taxes. There won't be jobs. There won't be police. There won't be firefighters. There won't be anything, any kind of structure whatsoever. The entire system will break down. I'm getting excited already talking about it. The entire system will be gone. So I love it. I think it's a happy apocalypse, and I love it. It all depends on your perspective. I'm excited for it. I look forward to it. But anyway, so the plasma comes down, it grounds itself, and like I said, the energy is reversing. The poles are reversing, right? So light is coming down at us right now. When this is all finished, light will reverse and go upwards. So we won't need a point of focus called a sun giving us day and night. We'll just always have constant daytime. But that's okay, because you probably won't have the need to sleep because you'll be so energized. Like your soul needs to recharge, your energy, okay? That's why we sleep for so long. It's because we're very depleted of energy these days, okay? So when your soul gets that boost, you're like on cloud nine. Like you're full of energy. I mean, it's not like you had a bunch of Red Bulls or anything, but you're just naturally awake, okay? So we will stop our sleeping phase, I believe, basically. And there will be no need for sleep time. There will be no need to go to bed at night or anything like that, because it'll just be daytime. It'll be constant amber glow. Depending on where you are, the sky will be different colors. But yeah, a beautiful energy recharge. Brill Saya is in the chat. Says, JayDreamerZ, what can you say about these world leaders? Are they going to escape on the plasma apocalypse? Probably some. I don't know, honestly. But I definitely see the evidence that there's certainly some organizations out there getting in the practice of building huge rocket ships that are designed to take people from one world to another. So yeah, pretty sure they're getting ready. NASA, I believe, is the greatest doomsday preppers of all time, along with the various other space agencies that are getting in on it. And, of course, I think there's some truth to what they're doing. But I think the truth behind that is that they're prepping. They're getting ready to go. Okay? So, yeah, they're going to leave. Anyways, good question. All right, where was I? Let's see. So the sky opens up. Plasma comes in. There's 3 days of darkness. And then when it's all done, the light reverses. Everything reverses. I feel like I'm forgetting something somewhere in there. Let me check my pictures here. I'll be right with you. Okay, so let's see. I'll get to that. Talked about that. Oh yeah, so a lot of these Phanazoids that come down, if not all of them, I believe are this what I call Phanazoid white, sort of a pearlescent white shiny color. And that's where we get our fear of clowns from. I think that's interesting. Especially as, you know, the bipedal ones try to make friends with us and paint their faces to look more like us, and we try to look more like them. So everything floats, etc. I believe I have... Oh, space. I didn't really cover space. I'm just going over all my little subjects here. Okay, so let's talk about space. So space is not black. Okay? So space... doesn't even make sense that space would be black. It's full of stars and light and stuff. Every single one of us as a child has wondered and probably asked the question in class, why isn't space bright? It's full of stars. You know what I mean? Which is it's a pretty decent question for any of us to have asked, right? That's just reasoning. That's just logical. Like, it should be lit up out there all the time, right? But it's not. Well, it's not, because that is not space what you're looking at. That's a black, dark covering over our world that's keeping the true light from coming in. It's blocking us off. We live in a dark world, a dark city. So it's a covering, and there's little tiny, pock marks in it, craters or whatever, and they allow some light to come in, and then there's a focal point that we call the sun, but that's just blocking the true beauty of the colorful world that exists just beyond the canopy to our world. So yeah, space, I believe, is more white or pearlescent, and therefore the beings that come from there, freshly from space, tend to be of the same nature. FEMA inmate says Raised by Wolves is amazing. I know, I just finished it last night, actually. I was binge watching it. You guys kept telling me to watch it, so I totally did. And I can't wait for the next season. Because wow, the ending with the electric eel or whatever it is, I don't know what that is, that weird serpent thing. I mean, that's the plasma, right? That's the devil, and it ends up in the garden or whatever. I'm sorry, I don't mean to spoil it for anybody, but we'll probably end up talking about it. Let's see. Lucas Lima says, JayDreamerZ, what about pretending that that is a plasma apocalypse happening while the real one will wait for years to come? Is it possible? I have no idea what you're talking about. What about pretending that it is a plasma apocalypse happening while the real one will wait a few years to come? I say go for it. Yeah, pretend it's going to happen every year. I fully encourage that. Like, pretend the plasma apocalypse is this year, every year. And hey, you should be good, right? But not just this year, like once. Get ready twice a year, just in case. I mean, it's good practice. Also, he says, is it possible a fake world ending like they faked 9/11? I don't know how to fake the end of the world. But hey, anything's possible. They could definitely fake the end of the world. But I don't know. I'm just going to use my senses. So if it seems like the end of the world, I'm not going to believe it just because it's on TV. Oh, it's the end of the world. Keep your eyes on the news. Nah, I'll have to step outside and check it out. But not only that, you'll know. You will know when it's the real end of the world. You don't need the news to tell you. There won't be any news to tell you. It will be painfully, wonderfully, amazingly, majestically, transparently obvious to you. Okay? Lots of people won't realize what's going on. Okay? They'll probably just panic. A lot of people would have heart attacks and probably just die on the spot because they're so freaked out because they couldn't even conceive of such a thing happening. Excuse me. But yeah, I say, hey, go for it. Pretend. But yeah, are they going to fake it? No. When it really happens, there's no faking it. There's no amount of preparation that can do the things that you are going to experience. So no. They can't make everything float and all that kind of thing. So when it happens, you'll know. Trust me. Yeah, somebody said Knowing, the movie Knowing, Dave said no, the Knowing movie. You're totally on point with that. That one's about it too. Pretty much every movie, I believe, is about some part of our never-ending story that starts and ends with the plasma apocalypse cycle, right? The plasma apocalypse cycle. It's going to keep on happening, okay? It's been happening for a while. It's going to keep happening for a while. Probably. But anyhow, what else happens? Okay, so after the polarity of our world reverses, like I said, light goes up, right? So that red plasma that's seen as the bad guy, the devil, the thief in the night, the killer, whatever you want to see it as, the tentacles, the monster, spaghetti monster, all that stuff, those red plasma tentacles are cut off when the electromagnetic force returns, and the light that comes up from the middle of our world, or Mount Meru, aka the North Pole, the geographic North Pole, shoots up from this plasma volcano, as I call it. I also like to call it the Cave of Saviors, because that's where all the saviors are born, is in a cave, and it's the Cave of Light, and it's always this particular cave. They're all the same, okay? It's Mount Meru, at the middle of our world. It's the Rupus Negra. It's the black mountain that you can see on ancient maps, if you look at the ancient maps of the North Pole. So this blue plasma, probably oxygenated is my guess, shoots up through that, and it creates this beam of light, this pillar of light that shoots up, and then it hits that electromagnetic barrier, and it's repelled by it as well, but it has to stay in, so it starts to fill it up with plasma, which creates the byproduct of water, which is going to create a brand new dome, right? It's also going to give us an influx of oxygen, fresh oxygen for our world to breathe, right? People will be able to breathe again. And it's just like on Total Recall. It's just like on Spaceballs and a bunch of other movies where their oxygen is returned to them and everyone starts to wake up. Now, people will pass out. Many people will lose their memories, okay, for a variety of reasons. Either they got zapped by the plasma and, it possibly tries to possess them through the head as it tries to dock with the brain, I believe, to upload their memories. Take them up there, because I think it's a data harvest. I think that's a big part of what's happening on like the bigger scale. Or the nitrous oxide influx. Okay, if you look up the gases that are involved that I've already mentioned, you can see that one of the byproducts is nitrous oxide. So if you happen to be caught up in a huge nitrous oxide cloud, you'll probably get a kick out of what's happening around you for a little while, and possibly pass out. And one of the byproducts, one of the what is it called? Side effects of a lot of nitrous oxide is that you have memory loss. Okay, severe memory loss depending on how much you've inhaled. But it's not just those things too. Other things can contribute to, just the shock of it all could cause people to literally have amnesia. But this is why you have so many movies where people are waking up on some island or in some house and they don't know each other and they don't know who they are and they're trying to figure it out and they're trying to survive. That's what it's all about. That's what happens. A lot of people wake up, no clue as to who they are, who their family is, where they came from, what happened, what world they're in. Probably varying degrees, I'm assuming. And many people will retain their memories. Some, I should say. Okay, I don't know if it's going to be many, but some people will retain their memories, based on their circumstances. And those people will remember what happened. And they'll probably, help to start setting up a new world and stuff. So anyway, that blue beam shoots up into the sky. And it's been interpreted as Jack's beanstalk, right? I think that the blue beam possibly is cold plasma that you can touch and it won't burn you or anything. So that could be Jacob's ladder, right? And gravity acts real weird right there at the middle of the world. So it's very possible it could literally be like a ladder or something that you could get in and like take you up to, out there, basically. Or possibly to the dome, like to the underneath part of the dome, which is where I believe there actually are civilizations of, other types of beings that live on the top of our dome. It's just another theory that I have. And they can look down on us. Our world's all illuminated and stuff. But anyway, so that blue beam shoots up, okay? That blue beam is like the sword that kills the dragon, okay? That red dragon that's coming down, that blue sword goes up into it. It's the master sword, Link's master sword. It's the sword in the stone, okay? It's seen as the sword in the stone. The stone is Rupus Negra, the black mountain, the black rock, the plasma volcano. That's the sword. It's the crucifix. It's the double cross. It is Thor's hammer. It's portrayed as so many different symbols by various religions all the way around the world, because when you see that happen, that red plasma stops attacking. Okay? The apocalypse is over. You have made it, basically. So when they see that, they idolized it, and they drew it in different ways, and they drew different symbols that represented it. But that's the blue beam, Project Blue Beam, like the government, they're preparing for Project Blue Beam or whatever. That's what that's about. No, I don't think it's going to be holograms in the sky or any kind of intricate. Nah, I don't think so. Like that sounds cool, and that would be cool, but I don't lean towards that one. I've heard the theory. I'm not super convinced. It's possible, but I see it as a natural event. Nature does it better. Brill Saya says, JayDreamerZ, in the Sumerian and also the Bible, it describes that the dome above has waters, also like oceans of some sorts. You talk about and showed to us about the dome breaking. Are there also waters falling? I believe that there's waters above. However, I think that a lot of the waters up there are acid. That's just the theory that I have. I think one of the byproducts of this chemical romance that happens in the sky when plasma's fighting plasma and they're all interchanging and interacting with one another is that it creates a type of acid. And so I think that there's probably huge pools of acid up there, which is why the gods, angels, demons, devils, whatever, why they're afraid of holy water, because it's different water. It's not water at all. I'm sure there's probably regular water up there too. But good question. Let's see, what else? So that blue beam shoots up. That signifies you made it. So that blue beam is idolized. It's symbolized throughout religions and different cultures, as well as the spiraling plasma itself. So when you see like the swastika or like the broken cross or spirals or things like that, that's just showing you like the labyrinth in the sky. That's the plasma swirling down into our world. Now you have to remember, based on where you are in the world, you're going to see it from different angles, right? So it's going to look slightly different based on your perspective and your upbringing and your beliefs and all kinds of things. People will interpret it through their own perception filters, like I said. Lucas Lima says, JayDreamerZ, the movie How It Ends on Netflix raises questions about deceiving the people while the real thing is happening, like blaming climate change for the plasma change. I could definitely see them lying to everyone, even if like the people who really know, if this is all true, then the people who would know about it would not want to tell the world as it exists today about it, because what would they do? Like, one, we've been led to believe that this is all fantasy and fiction. Like, they're going to think that their leaders are wackos, right? So they can't really do that. Two, we have already been given the tools to find this secret on our own. It doesn't fall to them to give us all of the answers. It falls to us to get those answers. It falls to us to figure out the riddle and unknot the knots of truth in our world. So it's not really even their responsibility. So maybe they lie to protect the people. I could see that. I'm not siding with anybody, but I'm just saying there's always two sides to every story. And I tend to have my reservations and wait it out, let things marinate before I jump to any conclusions about what they are doing or whatever. I have to figure out what I'm doing before I start speculating on what they're doing. You know what I mean? I have to get to know myself. And the more I get to know myself, the more I'm going to get to know them, which gives me insight into what they're doing. Hopefully that answers that question. Let's see here. Okay, so we don't do religious propaganda in my chat. So let's go ahead and just remove you. Boom. All right, cool. So I don't mind if you guys share your perspectives or your beliefs or whatever, but you got to phrase it in a way that it's like, here's what I've been taught or here's what I see or whatever. But you can't go around saying, repent and believe in Allah or Jesus is the only way or whatever. Like that's not fair to everybody else. That's your perspective and it's your belief system, and that's great. And if you want to try to like share it with people, coming from a place where it's not bullying, trying to get everyone to join your team or join your side, or condemning, even worse, it's not welcome on my channel. So I don't even see any of like my, where are all of my little wrench people? What do they call it? Moderators, yes. So feel free, let people know, hey, we don't do that here, or you can just kick them out. I don't even care. But yeah, we definitely don't do that. I respect your religions. I respect your beliefs. And hey, live life however you love to live life. But when you start forcing other people or condemning other people because they don't have those same perspectives, those same ideas or belief systems as you, that's when you become a bully in my book. And I don't even want it around. So I bless you on your way. And, just a tip for the future for whoever else jumps in the chat. Anyways, let's see. What else is there? So that blue beam shoots up into our world, right? Now our world is constantly being energetically amplified by this influx of plasma, the blue plasma, the oxygenated plasma, the good plasma, if you want to call it that. And it's filling up our world. Our world is energetically amplifying, which means it's constantly charging our spirit, like I was talking about. When your spirit is that charged up, it's not just limited to being stuck inside your body, but your aura expands, right? And as your aura strengthens and thickens and expands and toughens, or however you want to describe it, it's able to interact with other auras and other energies and stuff. Now you have telekinesis, telepathy, and other words that start with tele, okay? But, you have all these psychic powers, basically. And people literally become what we call today superheroes. All of those survivors that go into that next world will basically have superpowers of some form or another. At the very least, super strength, because your muscles have been fine-tuned under the most strenuous conditions in the strongest gravitational pull, all of this pressure around us. You've been working out in this environment for a long time. Now you go into a world where gravity is restored, but it's much weaker to begin with. So everything weighs much less. You can pick up things like they don't weigh anything. You can leap tall buildings in a single bound. Your muscles are tight and strong. And you don't even have to be athletic, really. Of course, the more athletic you are, the more stronger you'll appear in that world. And you'll run faster, be able to jump far, and so yeah, you'll be super strong basically in the world to come. And then a lot of people will have develop psychic abilities. They'll be able to talk to one another with their minds. They'll share feelings and sensations and thoughts and ideas and stuff. So yeah, that's actually some pretty cool stuff to look forward to in the post-apocalyptic world. Now, not everybody will be born with that. Those people who are born into that world will actually be weak in comparison because they will grow up exercising in a world with hardly any gravity, which means they're not really exercising their muscles as much as you did today, right? So they might grow larger because there's less pressure and less gravitational force. So they might get bigger and bigger and bigger, but you will seem superhuman being so tiny and stronger than them. You will be like a god in, how gods are described, okay? Not the God, okay, it's all the religious people, but, the little gods and angels and demons and all that stuff. You'll be a superhero. Now, not everybody will be a hero. Some people might use these powers for bad, which means there might be a clash, okay? There may be those who are going to protect their cities. There may be those who use their newfound powers for selfish purposes. So it'll be an interesting place to live. Basically, our world turns into every fantasy novel or movie, every sci-fi movie, all that kind of type of fictitious, not real stories and scenarios become real. And they really happen. Now, you're going to also have these monsters, these phanazoids that have dropped down into our world of various sizes, various types. You got your giant sandworms going through the muddy, swampy earth. They're going to land and feel right at home. You've got your tardigrade class, your benevolence, your hunters and predators, right? So there's going to be some survival happening. Thankfully, you'll be very strong if you survive. So, that will help out. Hey, Jazz Sinclair. I totally saw just Jazz Sinclair in the chat. He's one of my buddies. All right, so Sriram Prashneth says, JayDreamerZ, how do you expect, or do you expect, more diseases and viruses leading up to the plasma apocalypse? Like, what are we going through now? Plagues. Yeah, for sure. I definitely do. You know, as these things start to happen over time, you always see certain events, certain cycles happening, which is sicknesses, plagues. You're going to see comets. You're going to see electromagnetic activity, weird things in the sky, strange lights all over the place, probably reported all of the time. And these are the omens that we were talking about at the beginning. These are the signs that you can look for. So yeah, definitely sicknesses, you know, all the stuff that people typically talk about that I really don't care to talk about. Like, to me, it's kind of the boring stuff. I want to skip to the good stuff. But yeah, like the stock market crashing, you know, the martial law enforced, all that type of stuff. You know, you could expect all that stuff to happen beforehand. I don't care about it. I'm just going to be honest. Like, I know a lot of people are like, you know, I need to know about that part. But that part's boring to me because that part involves this world and the system and how things are working now. So yeah, I totally think that stuff happens, but it's just, to me, that's the boring part. I just want to get to the good stuff. All right, so let's see. What else? Anybody else in the chat? Yahushua My All says, JayDreamerZ, have you noticed the COVID virus image looks like a plasma ball? Excuse me. I have not seen. Oh, hey. A Perceiver Feeling Content. That's a cool name. Says, I love this channel. Good vibes. Paranoia. And a little butterfly. Hey, thank you for the donation. That was awesome. I'm glad that you like my channel. I got to tell you, it's not been easy because, you know, I'm doing a lot of different life changes and my life's gotten a lot busier. So I've been super tired lately. I don't know if you guys could tell. But yeah, I'll keep on keeping on. Anyway, just I think I pretty much covered everything. And then of course you've got other stuff that happens. People grow up, their children, the people that mate with the visitors who come, okay? Most likely will have really, really big children, which become titans and stuff, because our world allows for giant growth at the time. So then you'll have titans, giants, and then little tiny, you know, elven race or gods or whatnot. And the world will be a very fictitious, interesting, magical place to live in. And that's why I look forward to it, because the world today is very square, okay? It is super square. And like we live in squares, we live in cubes and boxes, and something's off. Something's not right about it. So I look forward to just tearing it all up, letting it all go to whatever. I welcome it. So I welcome this world changing, and my hope is with all of you. I hope that if you're a decent person and that you've got good, loving energy, I hope you make it. And I hope you develop your own clans and tribes and families and pass on the very core of who you are and what makes you a decent person. And teach others to be like that. And raise up your tribes and families to raise theirs in the same way. And live by example and lead by example. And never force other people. And hey, man, I think it'll be a beautiful time. So I look forward to it. Not that there won't be any evil in the world or anything, but my hope is that for those of you who are just good people, and that you'll survive, that you'll raise up a great new world. And for those of you who aren't, you've got time. It's not the end of the world yet. You can always change. You can always turn it all around. I think that's a good time to end everything on tonight. I had a blast. Hopefully, you know, I'll get something together where I can share more pictures and stuff. Thank you to Torque the Tardigrade over here. You know, I love the tardigrade, man. I love how they have so many fantastic images of giant tardigrades either attacking the earth or in space or something. I love that. Anyway, I think I'm going to take off because I need to catch up on some sleep. And I'll see you guys next time. Until then, I'm JayDreamerZ saying good vibes and goodbye. Thanks for watching.